Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of Coffee with Tracey. I'm your host, Tracey Osborne. Today we are talking again about a subject that, if you've been following me, you know is very near and dear to my heart: self-love and self-care. It's something that I've struggled with over the years, and I talk about it freely. So I'm always looking for ways to make it better and learn how to love myself, because it's a journey. It really is. With me today is Trilby Johnson. She's joining us from New Zealand, so we get to listen to her awesome accent. I'm so excited. It doesn't take much to excite me. give me a good accent, and I'm good to go. Just read me a dictionary. I'll be good. Uh, let me read her bio to you, and then we'll get started. Trilby Johnson is an author, speaker, and body energy alchemist. She supports forward-thinking individuals to live the lives they were born to live by resolving the core imbalances that destabilize and limit their unique and authentic body-mind-spirit connection. When they connect the essence of who they truly are, they're able to realize and align with their full potential and live happy, healthy, and successful lives. Trilby's success story is one of self-love and learning to master her life, and she supports others on how to achieve the same in their spiritual well-being and transformation. She revels in studying and has completed courses in psychology, neurolinguistic programming, that was easy for me to say, Reiki, DNA activation, meta-coaching, and holistic massage, just to name a few, and is continually transforming her own life. She lives in New Zealand and works online worldwide. So welcome. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Tracey. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. And you're very easy to please. I'm so glad accents do it for you.
That's it. I'm good. I'm good. Just give me a good accent. I'm happy. I always wonder what my accent sounds like to other people.
It sounds wonderful.
Weird thing.
Yeah. It's I love accents. Because they're fun. They are fun, and yet they're not always who the person is, so it's always good. It's really also, don't judge a person by their accent.
That's true. That is so true. Yes, so when my Southern drawl comes out, please don't judge me by
that. I love Southern drawls.
I try to keep it in check, but sometimes it'll come out and I'll start saying y'all and fixin' to, and people are like,
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about self-worth. And, this is such an important topic because it translates into our business. When we don't really value ourselves and we don't really love ourselves, it really is going to affect our businesses as entrepreneurs.
Oh, absolutely. And I did a lot of self-development before I decided to go into my business. And now I say it really is about minding my own business. And that's in every sense of the word, because absolutely, self-worth will show up sometimes in one area of our life and sometimes across our life, because I forget who said it, but, as we do one thing, so we do everything. So if we're insecure, or, we have a lack belief system, that's going to be showing up. And it's not always straightforward. Like, sometimes it's very clear to identify the pattern. And sometimes it's not so, because until we actually get to, I believe, the underlying value, because we build our beliefs on our values. People talk about changing your beliefs, and yes, of course, they're important, because for me, your beliefs are basically, they're your thought patterns, but there's values underneath, and the values, I feel that we come in with them. I think it's part of our soul purpose, and our self-worth. Is that a value of yours? And for a long time, it wasn't one of mine, and I was absolutely astounded to realize that when I actually sat down and did a list of my values, and I realized that self-worth was there, but it was like number 29, and I thought, no, that does not work, So absolutely, and like, as you would in your business, you have to sit down and prioritize, what you're going to do today, and then focus towards that, and only that, and not, because I think I know for a long time I tended to focus on what wasn't working.
Oh, yeah.
Because in a way, I think that was a part of the awareness I had to go through. And I think that it's good to know what we don't know or what we don't like. But I think what was missing was the step, what's after that. And that's where we have to say, right, okay, this is not how I want things to be. What would I like? I'd like to feel happy. I'd like to really value myself. I'd like to see that reflected in my life. And then focus on those feelings and finding opportunities that will meet with that. So, yeah.
So you mentioned lack, and this is in a lack mentality, and I get this a lot with my coaching clients. They'll come to me and they'll be stuck because they're not making enough money, or whatever happened, and next thing you know, they're just attracting all of this bad stuff to them, and it's because they're stuck in a lack mentality. So what happens when we get stuck in that lack mentality? How do we get out of it?
Well, first, I think it can take a while before we have the awareness that we are in a lack mentality. That can actually often be the longest process, I find, because it's that saying, when you're in the problem, you don't see it.
Right.
And that's why it is so important to have, people around you, get a coach, get a mentor, someone that you can go to. It's not I think a lot of people are afraid to seek out help. I know I did, because I'm extremely independent, and it was hard for me to ask for help, because I felt like, oh my God, I can't do it on my own. Well, we weren't meant to do it on our own.
Right.
The only thing I can choose is, right, I need help with this, so and so often we can lack in the knowledge we need. How do I get out of this? I mean, money is such a huge subject. it's a huge button,
It is.
I mean, people have such conflicting and different attitudes towards money. But I would just, what helped me was the way it made me feel, the way the belief made me feel that I didn't have what I wanted. How did that make me feel? Well, most of the time it made me feel terrible. It made me feel not good enough. And these were all the associations. So it's important to start to recognize the thoughts that you have associated with other thoughts.
Right.
Associations, I mean, and that's why it's not, when I work with clients, they say, oh, well, I want to find the cause. It will take forever to find the cause. It's just about taking what's there now. And what's so wonderful about energy is that energy doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an end. So you just have to direct it and it does the work for you. So, and that kind of, there is no lack, because the only thing that's lacking is direction. So it could just be the awareness, wow, I have a belief that I lack this, and then, okay, what do I want? What do I want? I think we tend to get so distracted by the emotions, and that's the association, and that's the constructs that we build, because we have the thoughts, and then we learn, or as we go along, we attach through experience emotions to thoughts we have. Like, I mean, okay, there's quite natural ones. Like if you put your hand in a flame, it's going to burn. That's kind of your body's intelligence saying, don't do that because it's painful. But, if it could be something really simple, like, you say hello to somebody and they don't answer you, or they don't answer you in the way you want them to. And in your mind, you say, oh, what have I done wrong? Or, oh, they're grumpy, or something like that. But in honesty, you don't know. Unless you ask them, and depending how grumpy they are, maybe that's not a good idea. Sometimes, choose your moment, because not everybody, I learned this the hard way. I love asking questions. I'm very curious. I'm fascinated how people think. But not everybody appreciates being asked questions, because it can make you feel defensive. So, ask, or you don't always have to ask a question, but just again, be aware, what are you thinking about it? What's the conclusion and decision that you come to? Because that's going to determine your business.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've been
So,
working on this a lot, so it's probably a little bit easier for me to realize when I do get into that mentality. I mean, not that it's like an instant thing, but all of a sudden I'll be like, oh wait, this is what's happening, and this is why it's happening. I keep saying I want, I wish, and those are all lack words. I want indicates you don't have it. So I want a good body. I want more money. That's a lack mentality, and your subconscious is picking up on that. So I really try to catch myself and rephrase things. And that translates, because then all of a sudden I feel like, gosh, well, I want more money and I'm not making enough money, and I'm the sole support of my family, so therefore I'm a failure because the bills aren't getting paid, and it just kind of all snowballs.
it does all snowball, and there you just gave a beautiful example of all the associations, and that's our thought process. And it does get easier as you go along. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, you start to really be able to observe it more and more, and then dissect it, because there's so much in what you've just said as well.
Right.
Like, why do we think we should have more money? That's like, okay, who told us that?
Right.
And that's something that's been implanted in our psyche, that we need more money. That's how, the reality we live in has been set up. So are we going to be, just a default player, or are we going to play consciously? I'm not denying we do need money in this reality, because that's how it still functions. But it's also about how we think about money, how we think about lack. How does it make us feel when we think that we're lacking about that money? Usually frustrated, and sometimes powerless.
Fear is a big one. Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
scared. How am I going to pay the bills this month? How am I going to feed my family? And so there's a lot of fear, so which creates stress. Next thing you know, I'm elbows deep in a tub of ice cream, which creates more stress, because now all of a sudden I'm killing my eating patterns, and and then I backslide, and it does, and I use myself as an example, but I think it affects a lot of us this way. I want to talk for a second about NLP, because this just fascinates the heck out of me. And for those of you, can you explain to us really quickly what NLP actually is? Because I don't think people realize that our thought patterns are habit, and they're actually literally ingrained in our brains.
Absolutely. Well, neuro comes from the neurons in our brain,
right.
And the linguistic is the language. So it's really the language that we use, because every word we use, the brain is going to, it sees us as a chunk of data. So basically NLP was created because the founders, Bandler, Grindler, they had observed, they were psychologists, and they had observed that the brain, the way our brain programs information is universal. So they noticed that when they were talking to experts, they thought, well, if we find out how they do what they can do, then we can do that too.
Right.
So it's, and there's a whole strategy finding thing. It's fascinating, because absolutely we are programs running, which is wonderful, because when we can reprogram it at any time. And every thought we have, it is a program. That's the association. I think this thought, oh yeah, that happened that time, so I'm going to associate it with that emotion, and that kind of thing. So it's really, yes, the language we use. And then there's the further step, which is neurosemantics, which was the higher level, because although neurolinguistics was, let's say, purely cognitive, but we're not just cognitive beings. We are emotional beings. Things have to have meaning for us. That's how we operate.
Right.
And so it's the meaning. So that's another step as well. So you were talking about the words of want, and words like that of lack and that. So I've had that awareness, but it's what does the word mean for you? And by that I mean is, what are you feeling when you're
Right.
saying, I want money? Because you could say it from a place of lack.
Mm-hmm.
I want money. I really want money, you know. Or you could say, I want money. You
Right.
know, it's
That's
just
a
an
whole
expansion.
difference. See?
Absolutely. So words are fantastic, you know, and the English language is so rich. What does it mean for you? And I say, define the word for you. What does it say when you say it? Where are you coming from? Are you coming from a place where you're connected or not? So, so yeah, if we find out our strategies, and it's a very intricate process. So, I mean, definitely if there's
Oh
something
yeah.
that, but the beauty of it is, and this was kind of like we were talking earlier about minding our own business, and find out what something that you do really, really well in your life, for example, and without going into the whole strategy session, but something that you really enjoy doing, and then take something that you don't enjoy that well. But think about what it is about what you enjoy doing. How do you feel? What are you thinking? Start to observe that process. And then start to take parts of that, like identify, well, I come from a place of I'm feeling calm before I do it, or I'm feeling happy when I do it. Or, you know, I feel really great after I've done my gym, or after I've had a really good meal or spent time with
Mm-hmm.
people I enjoy. And then take those aspects and start to introduce them to the bits where you're not so good, you know, and rephrase things. For example, I remember going to the gym, and I mean, there were people there, they were saying, oh my God, I hate being here. And I thought, well, why are you here? I mean, it was just this conflictual energy.
I'm bad about that. I call it my torture session, and I
Yeah,
love going to the gym. I absolutely
yeah,
do. But
yeah.
it's, oh, okay, I'm going for another torture session with my trainer, and then I start dreading it. All of a sudden, I start dreading it, and then I start coming up with excuses, and then all of a sudden, life starts manifesting ways that I can get out of going to the gym, and it's because I'm
Yeah,
telling myself it's a torture session. And who wants to go to a torture session?
absolutely. And that's a perfect example of a strategy for NLP. So
Right?
maybe you would like to choose a different word
Yeah,
than torture,
absolutely.
because there's so many associations. And the thing is, our body remembers everything.
Mhm.
So, you know, your body is going to go into protective mode. Oh my God, she's going to a torture session. So, and as you've said, you've actually observed that all these things start, you get the thought coming up, because the mind will always, the ego will always protect you. And that's the mind chatter, because it's there to protect us.
Right.
It's there to advise us. It's your 24/7 hotline. It's telling you, don't do this, or, you know, and so it's like, oh, okay, I hear you. Thank you. So change it. So what I found a keyword for me, and it's in many areas of my life, was movement. I love movement. I love dancing, and I just love movement. So find the movement, you know, and there's things. It's very interesting studying the initial definitions of words, like if you go back to the original Greek origins and that. But like exercise is very close to exorcise. It's exorcism. And if you've had a history of, religious persecution or things like
Right.
that, your body's going to go.
Right.
And so it's when you start your exercise regime, even before, you're starting to say things like, oh my God, I'm going to my torture session. And it's putting you in a frame of mind where your body's already kind of at a disadvantage.
Mhm.
Maybe find words like, what I love is I use questions as a superpower. When you ask really calibrated questions, you get amazing answers. You get possibilities. So play with it. Like,
Okay.
how can I enjoy my gym session more? and see what comes up.
Right. Yeah. And something else that my lighting keeps changing. The sun keeps going behind clouds. Something else that I see is instead of I have to go work out, I have to go do this, I get to. And that's a whole different.
Absolutely.
I have to,
Yeah.
I get to, and
Yeah.
it's a whole different feeling. And so let's kind of we kind of got off the whole self-love track a little bit, and I'm really good at that.
That's
But,
okay.
so let's bring this back, because it all actually intertwines and interrelates. Because when we're doing stuff that we hate, we're not really liking ourselves very much if we're putting us through torture sessions. So these thought patterns have to we have to change them. We have to work on them. But let's kind of come back about the whole self-love, and since we're talking about exercise, let's talk about body image and how that plays in with how we really think about ourselves, because body image is really, really huge nowadays.
Body image is huge. In the research I did for my book, Fearlessly Alone, and number 2 was body image. The first thing that controls us is money, and the second is body image. It's been very much my own life path, because I had a body image that didn't fit the norm, and I was made to feel that very young. I was bullied, I've suffered abuse, and the worst abuse was self-abuse, because I thought, oh my God, and I mean, often we see this, this desire to control our life in cases of bulimia, and
Anorexia.
And anorexia, because ultimately the only thing that people feel they can control is themselves, and they do this by the intake of the food.
I can't even do that.
Yeah, but that's there's other forms of it. I mean,
Right.
You get those really clear-cut cases, but you have, emotional eating that goes on all the time.
That's me right there.
Yeah, and so it's really important to resolve that emotional crutch, and the only thing really is self-love. And when you're in a place where you don't love yourself, imagining loving yourself is so far away. And body image is so important, because I think one of the most powerful exercises and hardest for me was mirror work, because to go and stand in front of a mirror and start saying nice things to myself, it took me almost probably 2.5 years before I got to a place where, the first thing that came out of my mouth was not, blah, 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 horrible
right.
stuff.
Making funny faces at yourself. You really doing this? Yeah. Mirror work is hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And body image, we have to be really aware that, we have more freedom today, but do we really? Because there's still these concepts of what you should look like and how you dress to be acceptable, and it works both ways. It's not necessarily only overweight people. It's also people who are considered underweight, and right. This I learned from a friend of mine, because, I was always going on, I'm to this and to that. And I said to her, oh, your life's great, you're thin. And she said, that's what you think. She said, people say to me, oh, what's wrong with you? Are you sick? You're so skinny. So it's all
right.
this judgment.
Yeah, both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and judgment is literally killing our bodies, because judgment creates division. It cuts us off from our awareness, and it cuts us off from what's really important. So body image is very much a judgment. And I had a huge epiphany in my early 20s. I was sitting in a bus and I was depressed out of my mind, but even that was probably a good thing, out of my mind, because all of a sudden I had this epiphany, and I just had this awareness that the only thing that had really kept me going was my body. And I just felt such a deep love and gratitude for my body. And from that day on, my life changed. And I started to really be able to see all the places my body had actually helped me. I mean, I consider myself very fortunate, because I've not really ever been able to tolerate normal medication at all. It actually makes me sicker. So I had to look for other alternatives. So I went to homeopathy, naturopathy, massage, things like that. And I really found that that helped my body much more. So, and massage played a huge part in that because I was so numb. People think numb is a feeling. Numb is not a feeling. Numb is numb, you
Right.
know. um, and massage for me was a really great way to start to connect to myself and start to become aware of what was going on. And it helped me to love my body because there was an experience I would have with my body that I didn't have if I looked in the mirror, so it's really becoming, it's about sensuality, it's about that sexual energy and how do you feel about yourself, because everybody kind of knows it and says, when you feel good, you look good, or the beauty industry says it the other way around. When you look
Right.
good, you feel good. No. I mean, yes, you can put, war paint on or makeup or whatever, but, your body language is 95%. And they say, people pick up on your energy, whether you're smiling or not.
Right.
So body image is really important. And I think because our body is our vehicle, it's our receptor. Everything that we receive and that we become aware of comes through our body. So it's kind of, well, what kind of receptor would you like to have? Would you like to have the best quality ever? Or would you like a broken down thing that, you kind of slamming on the desk saying, you piece
Right.
of shit, kind of thing?
Right.
Well,
Like a car. Do you want a Lamborghini or do you want a Yugo?
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And it's, it's just about being grateful for what we have. I mean, and I would really suggest start with that. Stop and start to think what your body does for you every day. It keeps us alive. It breathes for us. It beats our heart. It digests our food. And
Right.
it's magical. I mean, the processes are just, I'm in awe every day of bodies, what they do. And they talk into us all the time, They
They do.
let us know if we're hungry or not. And of course, over time, we can lose that awareness. So body image is really important, and especially it's very interesting because there's a distinction, quite a huge distinction between what body image for men is and what body image for women is. And please, women, stop judging other women, okay? And it's very true that saying, what you judge in another person, it's a judgment of yourself. There's a subconscious fear there that you will be judged for the way you look, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you will start to find people who say, oh, you look like this or like that or whatever. And there will also still be people who just, that's the way they operate. But when you have more confidence in yourself and self-acceptance and really value yourself, it just kind of pings off you, whereas if you're vulnerable and you it can hurt. I know it can be crippling, and especially when you're vulnerable. So do the best you can for your body. Start to shower it with love, and if you do have a shower, that's a great visualization. Like I stand under the shower and I just say, I'm being showered with love. And it's just little things like that. And it starts to make a huge difference because you're starting to talk to yourself in a loving way. So that's the neurolinguistic, you see?
And it feels so weird in the beginning because
totally.
Because the way I've had NLP described to me is actually pretty interesting. It's we have thousands and thousands of thoughts every day, and most of those thoughts are the same thoughts we had the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that, and they carve these well-worn paths into our brain. So we just automatically go to these paths, these thought patterns, because they're habit, they're there, they're comfort, it's our comfort zone. So when we try to start thinking new positive thoughts and the self-love talk, it's very uncomfortable, and it's very much out of our comfort zone, because those paths haven't, we have to walk, whack out the weeds, and we've got to clean those paths and make them easy for us to travel down. So when I continue or remind myself that, okay, this is uncomfortable, but give it a couple of weeks and it'll get easier, it'll get better. You have to just physically, consciously think about these words and what you're thinking, what you're saying to yourself. But eventually it just becomes habit.
Absolutely, and that's what you say. You need to replace, what you're doing is replace a bad habit or one that makes you feel terrible with a good habit.
Right.
And often the easiest way to do that is not to use the old habits. We don't have to go and unconstruct it, and that's where the mind will say, well, you better go back and deconstruct that. No, you don't have to. What happens is it will dissolve because it's not being used.
Right.
It's like a file that's left in your folder for 3 months. Eventually it just gets trashed, and that's the same thing. So that's why what I said in the beginning, focus on what you want. Like, how would you like to feel? I get to go to the gym and I have like 1 hour where I can just, express myself fully, or, really get into it. And I'm working my body and I'm listening to my body and I'm moving in a way that makes my body feel good. And, it's kind of, they say, well, fake it till you make it, but it's not faking it. It's really, what do you want? And perhaps that's the biggest question, and most coaches would say in NLP, they say, if you don't know where you're going, you can land up anywhere.
Right.
And it's true. So, and it's not fixed in stone, but have an idea where you want to go. Like for me, for a long time, and even still today, I just wake up every morning and my mantra is, today I'm going to do whatever it takes to feel really, really good about myself and to enjoy my life. And it's as simple as that. And then I just notice things that come up, and of course over time it's gotten easier. It's
right.
Like you said, there's this intense period of uncomfortableness, and I like to share, like when your leg goes to sleep, it goes numb, and then you think, oh, I have to get up and move, and there's that period where it starts pins and needles, and it's excruciating, and you're like, that's the uncomfortable period. But you know that if you stick through, you'll have feeling back in your leg and you can walk again. So stick with it,
it goes away.
And so those absolutely new habits, and especially, say, tell yourself that you love your body, even if you don't believe it, because you're starting to train a new habit. That's all it takes. It's like, I'm going to love myself more. I'm going to love myself more. And then I am loving myself more, and start to create that new habit. And don't worry about the older one, other than just noticing, oh, okay, I've gone down that habit again.
Right.
Yeah. I think we focus too much on what we don't want, instead of really just what I do want.
Yeah. So these are some good tips. So mirror work, standing in front of the mirror and saying positive things to yourself, asking yourself, what is it that I want? That's something I've actually been doing lately, is not necessarily what do I want, but it's, does this really resonate with me? And I'm just, it's in all different aspects of my life. Okay. Does getting my nails done really truly resonate with who I really want to be? No, it doesn't. So I quit getting my nails done. In different, does eating meat, does this, every different aspects, does this in my business really resonate with who I truly want to be? No, it doesn't. Out it goes. And it's a process, but it's been a very opening process. So
absolutely. And you mentioned the thoughts. Yeah, I mean, we have thousands of thoughts every day, and I say, well, that's how often you should be asking a question. Is this true for me? Does this resonate with me? And people say, oh, but that's hard work. I said, okay, cool. Well, continue in the old way then, because that actually takes more energy. And that's being present in your life. Oh, okay, I thought I'm hungry. Am I hungry? Body, am I hungry? Oh, no, okay, I'd rather prefer a glass of water. And that's the emotional eating. Often, ask, am I hungry when you feel hunger? And often, because if we're dehydrated, our body signals are actually quite similar.
exactly.
I mean, scientists have actually even observed, like, for example, fear and excitement, the brain actually releases exactly the same hormones.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what path am I going to go? Am I going to go the fear or the excitement? And sometimes there's a bit of both. It's like you can sometimes, those butterflies in your stomach, and there's a nervousness there. But is it fear or is it excitement? And whatever it is, it's okay. It's just being aware of that emotion. And I find that just the awareness, saying, oh, okay, it's interesting, I have fear there. But you don't buy into it. You don't become the emotion of fear. It's just a feeling, an emotion that you're having, and it's probably related to a thought, oh yeah, I remember that time I stood up in front of everybody and I forgot everything I said, because that's what happened to me, So it's been really exciting, because all of a sudden I realized, oh, I actually enjoy speaking. But when I speak about what I like, not some topic that's boring to me. So there's the joy factor. So find the connections that resonate with you, that make you feel good.
There you have it. You got to find those connections. All right. This has been so enlightening. I've already taken a whole bunch of notes that I'm sure everybody else has too. So thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Been a pleasure having you. Listeners, thank you again for being here. I hope you've gotten as much out of this episode as I have. And again, just start asking yourself those questions. Does this resonate with me? What do I really want? And you'll soon find yourself walking down that path. So we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks, everyone.